Hi, everybody, and welcome to the iRock Knits podcast. My name is Corey Eichelberger, and I live in the southwest quarter of the Twin Cities in Minnesota. And today is Monday, June 22nd. I usually don't say the date, but I thought I should add that to my opening little introduction here. Thank you so much for joining me today, and also for all of your comments and conversations that we had on the last podcast. I had some agreement and some disagreement in the comment thread, and I think that that's excellent that we are having a conversation and we can have some back and forth and we can talk about what's going on here in Minneapolis and worldwide. I have a lot to talk about today, and I need to start right up front here with the fact that I had a bit of a stressful event. My father had a heart attack. A week ago on Thursday, my mom called and she was upset because my dad was having some uneasiness and he didn't want to go to the hospital. And so after a little bit of time, he wanted to rest in the recliner. She had had stomach flu earlier in the week and he was feeling nauseous, so he thought that that was what it was. But she's a nurse and he has had a heart attack before 9 years ago, and eventually they went to the heart hospital in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, where they live. And by 5 o'clock that afternoon, my dad had been taken up for surgery. He had had a stent placed. The blockage that they found in his heart was too big for a traditional stent, so they had to graft a vessel of some kind. Any of you that are nurses probably know how that works. But it was a really scary, stressful day, but he's doing great. My dad is 85. He still, prior to the lockdown, was going to the gym 3 times a week. He walks on the treadmill and he lifts some weights. He's in really pretty good shape. He just has a little problem with this ticker. It was really stressful for my family, especially I'm the oldest daughter and I wasn't in town. My brothers were both working, and so mom was kind of on her own. Plus, you can't go to the hospital. You can't go as a family and be together. So in the moment, I was hopping in the car and I was going to drive right there. And then my husband, who happens to be working from home these days, and that's recent to us, so that's been a real adjustment, said, you can't necessarily go. You probably shouldn't see him because we're on quarantine. You probably shouldn't see your mom. He'll probably be, compromised even if he does get to come home. And so you should at least wait a little while to kind of see what is happening. So I didn't go, but I'm going this end of this week. We've decided, we've made some arrangements and I need to get down there. I really need to see them both. I haven't seen them since Christmas, and usually they will come here a couple of times a year, and we had invited them for the 4th of July, and now they're not going to be coming. But anyway, I just wanted to let everybody know that that was going on in my life. So, and then secondly, I got a haircut. I chopped off all the hair. So it is not in a ponytail, even though it looks like it could be. So there you go. I had been planning to cut my hair short in March, prior to the whole pandemic happening, and I just decided that I'm not a long hair girl. I have okay hair to be long. It's a little thin and a little wispy. As it got longer, I liked it more how it looked, but it was an aggravation. And I have had short hair almost my entire life. I've had long hair a couple of times, but I'm a ponytail and headband kind of girl then. I just slick it back and I put a ponytail in it every day. And I think, why would you have the long hair if you're not willing to take care of it and do something about it? So once every 2 weeks, I was actually drying my hair and doing it for the podcast. And the rest of the time, my family, well, no one's here, the dog and my husband were seeing me basically with a headband and a ponytail. This is so much easier. It's quicker. I use about this much shampoo now. It was easier this morning. I do this with the hair dryer. I comb it down. I round brush a little bit and I'm off and going. So for now, I'm much happier. I'm not sleeping with a headband and a ponytail at night because it would get in my face. How you people with long hair manage, Lynn, walking at the dog park, if you don't have it pulled back, it's in your face. little tiny problems. But I think hair is a big deal for people, men and women alike. And I think we really learned that during this quarantine, right? That it's a big deal. So it's kind of a sad day when you have to start your podcast with corrections from the last podcast. But I have 3 corrections that I have to make from the last podcast. Kat chimed in to let me know that the microwave bowl that I showed last time has to be 100% cotton, or otherwise it does not work. Your other fibers in your microwave are not a good combination. And I don't plan on making one, but I know some of you probably do. And so that's a good thing to know. So thank you, Kat, so much for letting us know about that. And then Mary Ann Noble Stoner reached out to tell me that the Little Long Johns pattern by Susan B. Anderson that I saw on Instagram, I believe, that was so cute that she made, it's a little ornament, it's the little red long johns, I was telling everybody I thought they should make them, is not called Dingle Kringle. Dingle Kringle is her Instagram name. So, Little Long Johns by Susan B. Anderson, not Dingle Kringle. I wrote down her name because that's where I'd seen it, but I didn't write down Little Long Johns, and I wrote down Susan B. Anderson, and so I misstated that. None of the rest of you pointed that out to me, so maybe you were like, yeah, we know, Corey. And then the YouTube video that I linked to, I kind of misspoke in the title because I said it was called How to Make a Sloper, and that was the where you cut out fabric for your body shape and you sew it together so that you have a pattern piece to kind of match what you're going to be making. You try it on and you get the good fit by Suzanne Bryan, is actually called How to Make a Sloper Prior to Knitting a Sweater. And when I went to link it in the show notes, I had not said prior to knitting a sweater on the podcast. So this is specifically making a sloper, a sewn sloper for knitting a sweater, which is why I thought it was so different. If you just Google how to make a sloper, you're going to come up with all kinds of sewn t-shirts and things for making regular garments, sewing regular garments. So 3 for 3 on that one on the last podcast. I apologize for that. Let's do the audiobooks of the week. I have started using Libby. Finally, instead of buying all of my audiobooks and sharing our account and our 3 books a month with my husband, and boy has it made a huge difference in my reading and listening life. So Libby by Overdrive is a app that you can have in your phone that hooks into your library system. So you have to have a library card, and you put your library card in the app, and then you can check out audiobooks for free. They're all free. Now, it's like a checkout system, however, because they own so many copies of the audiobook. So when you start putting them on hold, it will say, this will be ready in 2 weeks. This will be ready in 5 weeks. This will be ready in 14 weeks. So you get an idea of when those will be ready for you so that you can kind of start filling in books that are available. They also have real books that you can read on your Kindle and etc. So you just have to look for the ones that say audiobook down below when you search. So in the last 2 weeks, I think I've listened to 4 books because I'm plowing through them. I'm getting them off hold. They're becoming available to me. That first week or 2, I didn't have many that were available right away, and I needed to go into like what's available right now. And then once I found that section, but my husband did not have a library card. So I got online and filled out some information for our local library system, and he got a library card coming in the mail. They sent his number so that he can also be on Libby, and we don't share the same account. Like we could have shared it, but then we share our Audible, and that was an issue. So the first thing I was reading, and I think I might have talked about it on the last podcast, but I'm going to say it again, Home for Erring and Outcast Girls. Wow, was this interesting. It's 14 hours long, and it has 4 stars on Audible. This is one of my last books that I actually read on Audible, and it takes place in the turn of the 20th century Texas and goes back in time between present day, a librarian who is doing research and looking up the information about this home, and then they're going back in time and telling the story of this home that took in pregnant girls, girls who had been abused or not treated well by husbands or men, and then were left kind of being poor, and they would take these girls in and kind of raise them up, and the babies would live there until the women might want to get out on their own again. It was fascinating. It's based on a true place that actually was in Texas, and the backstory on the librarian I found to be really interesting, and what was going on with her, so it went back and forth. I would say, yeah, I really liked it. I gave it a big thumbs up from that one. Longest one I probably read in the last 2 weeks. Then Michelle, thank you Michelle, from the podcast Knit Takes Two, gifted me a book via the Libro FM app. And she got a, kind of one of those free give this to a friend things. And she thought I might be interested in reading this book. So she reached out to me and I said, absolutely. And so I listened to Stamped, Racism, Anti-Racism, and You, a remix of the National Book Award winning Stamped from the Beginning. So this is the book that she sent to me so that I could listen to it. The original version, Stamped from the Beginning, is 19 hours on Audible. But the version that I listen to is kind of a young adult, high school, college, maybe a version for students to read and kind of find out the information in a more condensed version. That was written by Jason Reynolds, so he took the original book and wrote it into 4 hours and 11 minutes on Audible. And that's the one I listened to, and the chapters were super quick. The historical information was fascinating. I learned a ton. I highly recommend the shortened version. I can't speak for the longer version, but I was speaking to Kylie last week, and she coaches speech and debate at her local high school. A lot of times she did it on college and they did it online. She could do it in her dorm room. I might have talked about that, but I don't know. But she said that she had gotten together with these 2 high school English teachers who were looking at curriculum for the upcoming years, and one of them was reading the long version of the book and then was going to look into getting the shorter version to teach at the high school. And so Kylie was aware of it and said, I'll loan you the book. She's going to give me the book. She has the hard book, and she's going to give it to me, and I'll let you take a look at it. And I said, gosh, Michelle just gave me that book in the shorter version, and I just found it really interesting. The historical things that I did not know about are just amazing. Every day on Instagram, somebody is teaching me something new. So anyway, that was excellent. Then I read Finding Chica by Mitch Albom, and this was really good. A Little Girl, an Earthquake, and the Making of a Family. 4 hours and 54 minutes, about 5 hours. Mitch Albom is the one who wrote Tuesdays with Morrie. He's written a number of books. He's a sports journalist in Michigan. After the earthquake in Haiti, he takes a group of men. They go to Haiti to try help with the cleanup and the fixing up of an orphanage. Comes to find out that the man who's running the orphanage isn't going to be able to run it anymore. I think maybe he was retiring. And Mitch says, I could take this over. I do a lot of outreach work. I could help with this. So every month for 4 days, for years, Mitch Albom has been flying to Haiti to run this orphanage. And his sister-in-law does the education, and his wife, goes with. And I think there are 47 children that live. It's in a kind of a gated compound that these children can come and live and be educated. And I think two of the oldest kids have now come to university in Michigan in the United States, so they can be close to Mitch for, help and support. You might have seen information on this when I was doing some research. He did a 60 Minutes segment and a couple of news stories on like local news or whatever, those kind of, those newsy channels. He's done some interviews on that. There's a very good little video on the orphanage itself, where they show the children singing, and it does have its basis in Christianity. So they're singing some Christian songs. It's really good. It's uplifting. The little girl has a brain tumor and has to come to the United States, and he and his wife take her into their home, and so it's sad but the joy that she brings to the book. They've recorded her voice like on a telephone over the years, and so they have little recordings of Chica talking. Break your heart. It's really, really good. Then yesterday, I had 3 books on my Libby app that were like, this book is available for you, this book, and I hadn't gotten started on them because I was listening to other ones. And so I thought, I'm going to look and see if any of them are short, because then I could listen to another one quickly. And this one came up as 5.5 hours. And so I thought, okay, I'll start that. I think I started it on Saturday night or Sunday morning, and I finished it that day. We Are Okay, by Nina LaCour. It's 4.5 stars on Audible. Here's the one-line sentence that you get to tell you whether or not you want to read the book. You go through the life thinking there's so much you need until you leave with only your phone, your wallet, and a picture of your mother. Really interesting. You don't know what's going on for, I would say, like the first 3 hours of the book. You're not sure where the story is taking you. This girl, Marin, lives with her grandfather. You kind of come to find out that her mother has died. And then it's the story of she and her grandfather, and then she's going off to college. And you can tell that there was something traumatic that happened. Yeah, really good, really good. I think this is probably a young teen and young adult literature and fiction, category. It was really good. So there you go, 4 books this time. And I started another one this morning because I had 2 more that were still in my queue. As you get them for 21 days, I think. So it's not as if I don't have plenty of time to listen. It's just that when a lot of them come through at once, you get a little like, oh, I have so many to listen to and I want to get through them. You can also on Libby give back the hold and say, keep me at the top of the list, but give me so much time, which is really nice, because then you can kind of let other people have the book and then it'll come back to you from at the top of the list. So it took a little getting used to figure out how to make the whole, the app work and what features it had. And I was worried about it might not have like a time. I always like to listen to books on 1.25 speed, but that is there. So yeah, I would highly recommend that. And the Libro app worked quite well for the stamped book as well. Recipe of the week. I have a couple for you today. The first one is called Salad Bow Tie Chicken Pasta. And this is one where what I found was we really liked the dressing on this one, and so then we can add anything we want to it. So it takes a package of bow tie pasta, a green onion, some cherry tomatoes, some black olives, and some slivered almonds. Now, I have 2 in my family who don't like black olives, so you leave those out, but I like black olives, so I could sprinkle a few on my dish every time, or you could also use any other kind of chopped up vegetable. You could use like a green pepper chopped or green olives, But then the dressing is white wine vinegar, sugar, salt, and vegetable oil. So it's just that kind of real light, not mayonnaise based, not cream, not ranch based. It's just that real light kind of vinegar, sugar, oil, salt, and you just mix it all together. What I have is a bowl that seals on top, and then I just turn it over every few hours before when I make it. As I'm cooking in the kitchen or I'm going by the refrigerator, I'll just reach in and turn it over so that it kind of continues to dress the whole thing. You can cut up diced, chicken, turkey. You could leave it without the meat in it. You could put a different bean in it. You could put a garbanzo bean in it and have, kind of a protein. I think it would be okay made with lentils instead of pasta. You could make it with gluten-free pasta, regular pasta. It's just that I really liked that, the combination of the dressing. So you can use as little or as much sugar as you want in it, but I keep it on the top of my 3-ring binder. I have all my recipes in 3-ring binders, and I keep this one on the top so that I remember that dressing is there. Okay, but this week I made something. Oh, I should have brought it. Well, you guys will know what it looks like. My husband was going to the grocery store, and he said, "Rado taco seasoning." And I said, "Oh, don't buy taco seasoning. I'll make it," because I make my own taco seasoning. Ever since I read about what goes into taco seasoning in the package and the stuff that they use in there to preserve it, and they use silica too to keep it from sticking together. You don't need to be eating that. So you put in all this stuff in a jar, shake it up, leave the jar in your... Now, we have tacos, taco salad, burritos, quesadillas fairly often at our house. So this is easy to sprinkle over any of that. But if you didn't, I would say my jar is a jelly jar, and it fills it, 3/4 of the way full. And so if you're only using a tablespoon at a time, but we just kind of sprinkle it over the top. So, and the reason that I like making this is because it uses so many spices. And how many of you, raise your hand if your spice cabinet is kind of full and a lot of them could or could not be expired at any given time, right? You buy them and then you use this much. So this particular one uses a lot of spices, and so I go through my spices a little more often, and I really like that about it. So chili powder, cornstarch, oregano, onion powder, paprika, cumin, garlic powder, salt, pepper, cayenne pepper, or red pepper flakes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 ingredients. You could certainly leave out anything you don't like or anything you do like. And once you've made it, you might have a flavor profile where you're like, oh gosh, this is a lot of chili powder. And they're not all the same amounts. So I will link this. Both of the recipes will be in the Ravelry group. And you can grab them from there. But you could also look up homemade taco seasoning online. This one comes from Cinnamon Spice and Everything Nice. That's where I got it. And it just is a list, and I double it. So instead of 2 tablespoons of chili powder, I put 4. And then I just shake it, and it looks like taco seasoning. When you pour it out of the jar, it's it kind of really works well for us, and it's easy to make. By the time he went to the grocery store and got back, I had started supper and I had made the chili. It just, I would say 5 minutes at the most, especially if you have this stuff. And I got everything out and set it up in a row, because then I can just go 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, all the way down. And we were missing something, and so I said pick this up, and then when he got home I added it at the end. So easy peasy. There's your recipes of the week. Now, let's do some podcast recommendations. Someone got in touch this week and said it was Rusty from Rusty Knits, and said that he had not seen my podcast, and he came over. So hi, Rusty. I have been going back and forth with a young lady that I met a year ago. I call her a young lady because I'm an old lady. She's not a young lady. I mean, whatever. Leah, you know who you are. She lives in St. Paul, and she and her boyfriend or husband, I never asked you that. Anyway, came to ZK last year on a whim to the market, and we were sitting in the lobby knitting, and being the extrovert that I am, I think maybe I said, hey, can we sit with you, or do you want to sit with us? And I don't think Leah's an extrovert, but I think I plopped down on the bench next to her, and then a bunch of my friends joined us, and we ended up having just a really nice time. She's got a podcast, and I had watched it in the past, promptly forgot about it, didn't subscribe to it, and then recognized this week when I was going, or last week, I think, when I was going through my podcasts, it came up on Instagram. So it's called Eventual Knits. Her name is Leah Villa, and she is Miss_LJV on Instagram. And you might want to take a look at that. She's got like a year's worth of podcasts out there. She did also did December podcasting, daily Advent thing, right? So then I watched Woolen Hearted, and that is episode 4 that she has out now, and that is with Fran, and she's in the Pyrenees Mountains in southwest France. Well, doesn't that sound a lot better than the southwest corner of the Twin Cities? They just moved, and I think that I had not watched her before, but maybe she had a podcast before and had been gone for a while. I kind of got that impression. So anyway, really beautiful scenery. Then Alpacadelphia, I watched episode 3 with Bridget in southeast Pennsylvania, and I was really wondering how to pronounce the title of that. Someone recommended it to me, Alpacadelphia, and so I watched that. She's on episode 3, and I think I watched 1 and 3. I always try to watch the first one where they do their introduction usually, and then Roxanne Richardson, who is from here in the Twin Cities, has had a YouTube channel for a super long time. And I thought, and I should have known better, because she's an amazing technical knitter, I thought she just did tutorials mostly. But no, she has a Friday thing. She has a once a week like tech tip. So Rox Knits, ROX Knits, she's got like 50,000 subscribers. That'll give you a good indication if people really like the information that they're getting from her. So go out and give Rox Knits, Roxanne Richardson from Minneapolis, a view, especially if you're looking for some tips or tricks about something specific. So I think I've watched, I watched all one afternoon while I was knitting. I just watched a bunch of stuff she had done. She's got a sock tutorial. She's a big sweater knitter. She's working on a big cable knit sweater right now. She has a lot of tips, tricks, tutorials, where she just puts up information that, takes you very little bit of time to watch. And then she also does these other Fridays. She's done a couple of lives during the lockdown where she's done a live thing and answered questions from viewers. So highly recommend, because she's so knowledgeable. Master knitter, knows all the deets. Super knowledgeable. Let's do some tips and tricks here. Have you looked at the new Ravelry? Wow, wasn't that a surprise the other morning? I sat down at my computer, opened up Ravelry, and I thought, what's happened? What's gone wrong with my computer? The screen is white. It's not that kind of minty green anymore. Yeah, it was just such a shock. I think it might have been a little less jarring had we gotten a heads up like tomorrow's the day. And I think it's been really hard for people. I've seen a lot of negative comments that people don't like it. They don't like the look of it. And if you went back 2 or 3 days now on the front page of Ravelry, Cassidy, who has done a huge update for, and then one of the people who, it was a new hire for them in 2019 when they decided that they were going to rework the website. does kind of the talk through like how it happened and what they did, and that was fascinating. I highly recommend everybody go out and read the information on that fund. Click on the Ravelry up in the left-hand corner where it says, you know, the R with the circle and Ravelry. Click on that and the front page of Ravelry comes up, and the information that they looked into and the detail, and they're going to be adding a lot of upgrades to Ravelry. And in order to add those upgrades, they had to make this change because systems get old, right? I mean, we all know that, even if you're not a tech person, systems get old and you can't do what you want to do until you do an upgrade. And so they spent a year and a half upgrading the entire site so that now they can do some of the things that people have been asking for quite a while, which I thought, okay, like I can go with that then, right? I'm not gonna be too mad about the change. I've gotten used to it in just a few days. I kind of see the screen differently than I did that first time. When I was like, wait a second, where groups? Oh, it's under community. You know, there's some things that they changed there for sure. But there's also a toggle button over on the right-hand side under your, your picture, your avatar, whatever you have, where you can toggle and go back to the way Ravelry used to look. I do know that some people were having trouble with it visually, if you had a visual disability or if you had migraines, that the screen and how it looks now was causing some issues. So I think that is the number one reason that they had to make the option for people. But this came up in my Instagram feed this week. It really has nothing to do with knitting, but I'm going to share it anyway. The caption reads, "How old were you when you found out these lines are actually measurements?" Did you guys know that? Tell me that some of you didn't know that. I didn't know that. I guess I'm not a big alcohol drinker, so maybe you're measuring, alcoholic beverages. That would make a lot of sense. But Lady Di Yarns posted and said, didn't even know until now. And I was like, neither did I. So you have a quarter cup, a half cup, a 1 1/2, a 1 3/4, a 2 and a 2 1/4. So in a pinch, if you don't have a 1 1/2 cup measure in your kitchen, you could use a red cup. There you go, your tip for the day. The other tip I have is someone was asking me, and I can't find it if it was my Ravelry, somebody messaged me, if it was on my Instagram, or if it was in a group thing, and I really apologize that I could not find it to get back to you, but I said I would get back to you, so I'm just going to say it here and hope that you are the person are listening. But I talked briefly about the concept of redlining in Minnesota and how I had watched a documentary on how there were covenants written so that people of color, specifically Black people, could not live in certain building developments in the Twin Cities. They were written out. They could not sell a house to a Black person. And this was in recent times, like not that long ago. But the reason that I knew that I had heard about that is because someone had shared this with me. It's called Jim Crow of the North, and it was an episode on PBS. So it's on the public broadcasting station, and if I put the link I'll put the link in the show notes for the whole thing, but it's tpt.org. So if you have a local public television station, you could maybe find it there, but you can find it on tpt.org in their almanac of all. And this was a 56-minute video on that practice and how that affected everything we've done since in Minneapolis. Another thing I did not know. I was unaware of this. I didn't know about it, but I was talking to someone and they said, could you please share that link? And I said, sure, I'll look it up. So I want to apologize to that person for not getting it to them. I'd written myself a note in a notebook, and then I went and looked it up and then couldn't find where it went. So anybody who might be interested in watching that. It was like a documentary type feature. It was really well done, super interesting, and something I didn't know. So, okay. I finished a project this week, and I don't always show finished projects, but this week I'm going to, because I'm pretty proud. I finished my cozy striped blanket, my granny striped blanket. Amber taught me how to crochet a year ago, 2 years ago, 2 years ago, I think. And she cast on for me. She did the foundation chain, which now I know is a difficult thing. And she did my first row of double crochet across the bottom in this neon fingering weight yarn. And I have been working on this since then. And I put it away for a long time. And then when I came back to it, I couldn't remember how to do it. So then I had to have a refresher course on how to do it. My biggest issue is turning around at the end of the row and going back the other way. I didn't know how to do that. And so I'm going to try to show you how it worked for me. See? That is a slanted line. Even if I hold the bottom straight, it slants in because my blanket got narrower and narrower, because I would get to the end and not know if I was at the end where I needed to do a single crochet into the third chain, the third stitch for the chain 3. Any of you crocheters out there, then you turn around and you do the second crochet into the top of that, and I was missing that, and so I laid it out on the ground and it went like this. And so I decided to kind of even it out, keep going enough so that it could be a lap blanket for me. And so I'm just going to show you how long it is. It's quite long, and I used sock scraps for the whole thing. A little bit more. Anyway, I took pictures and posted it on my Instagram this weekend. Then I had to learn how to single crochet around the whole thing and do 3 or 5 in the corner and turn. And I kind of wish that maybe I had used a thicker yarn for the edging and a bigger needle, but I don't know if you can do that. So, well, I mean, you can do anything you want, right? But I don't know if that would have looked okay, but I feel like I would have liked maybe to have another edge around here, especially since mine's so crooked. So what I decided to do was stop crocheting and cast on a new one. I looked up videos, I did my own foundation chain. I picked up in the foundation chain and did my double crochets for my first few rows, and I'm doing 4 row high blocks of color to use up some bigger skeins of yarn that were leftovers from my jars that I had. This one got really crazy. When you start using variegateds, you get a lot of color change, which is fun, and I like it right now on the back of my chair because I can just lay it over my lap and have it going, but it's all sock yarn scraps, so that's a great way to use up those scraps too. So I also cast on a new fisherman's rib blanket as well. I had made the one for Kylie and finished that, and then finished this one. So that Sunday I sat down. I love casting on. I love casting on. I just think it's so fun to start a new project. And I got out yarns and I sorted all of my scraps into dark colors that Corey wouldn't knit with, and I'm going to try to do a fisherman's rib blanket for my daughter's boyfriend. I think that would be fun to give him for Christmas since she has one. They spend so much time at each other's apartments that I thought, you know, I really liked doing that fisherman's rib blanket. It's kind of the one that looks like brioche, but I got that cast on too and did a number of rows. So I was texting with Amber this week, who was also starting a new blanket, which is so funny. We have just these moments in our life where we're so similar. So she texts me and she says, I'm going to cast on a new blanket because I'm getting ready to finish up the other one and I don't want to weave in ends every day. And I was like, I am currently sitting here sorting yarn to start a new crochet and fisherman's rib blanket. But she wanted to do a circle blanket, the one that starts in the center and works its way out. And she was thinking about using that Kate Celine yarn that we both purchased. I think mine's up higher. So we were just talking about circular blankets, and I said, oh, I just love the one I made for my niece when she had her first baby. It's one of my favorite blankets I ever made. I always said I was going to make one for myself. I never went back and made it. So today, since I'm showing blankets, talking about blankets, I thought, well, I'll just print this out. So this is the blanket that I made for a baby shower for my niece using scraps. Look at how cool that is. You cast on in the center, and then you just have 4 increase points, and the increase points make it go like that, so it looks like an optical illusion. I use Barocco Vintage and also some scrap yarns that I had in like a bin that were worsted weight, and I made it for my new baby niece I'm gonna say I made this in 2015. It's by Melissa Dominguez. So I highly recommend, if anyone's, look at this is how you start. And so you just have 4 places where you're doing. It was so fun. Do it in stripes. You can do it as a solid, but the stripes were so fun because you're changing colors and then you're watching it go. Oh, it was really a fun. I will definitely make it again now that I've gotten it out and it's back in my, you know how you do that? You say, I'm going to make this again because I loved it so much, and then you never get back to it because you kind of go on to other things. So I'm going to make that one again sometime. Let's do the sweaters of the day today. We're not going to do a shawl today. We're going to do 2 sweaters just because I have 2 sheep sweaters, and I thought that they kind of go together. That might be kind of fun. So the first sweater is the Sheep Go Round sweater, and it is by Bev Galeskas. And some of you have been knitting long enough that you remember Bev well. Bev passed away in 2010 from cancer, and she owned the company Fiber Trends. So if you are an experienced knitter, you remember the blue, kind of tealy blue cardboard colored inserts that went into a plastic sheet that you bought at the yarn stores that were by Fiber Trends. She had hundreds of patterns. She had a great company. She designed a lot of great patterns. She would still be a go-to designer today. Her most popular one that I think I remember knitting is the felted clogs. She did quite a few felted patterns. She had other patterns as well, but this particular Sheep Go Round sweater was numbered FT 453 back in the day, and it was done in grays with little gray sheep. But I don't know if anybody who is my age or maybe a little younger remembers that Princess Diana wore a sweater that looked like this and got her picture taken and put in a lot of magazines in the US. And I just remember her sweater being red, and I wanted to have those white sheep, and I ran into this as a kit somewhere that I was. And I love this sweater. It's got the little sheep on it and the fence and the clouds. It's easy to knit. I had a problem because I knit this in, I didn't print out mine. 2008 maybe, and we were wearing things shorter and boxier than we are today, although the crop sweaters are kind of coming back. So but it's that thing. So this sweater became too short and too wide for me to wear with like just jeans and things because it hit me at kind of the wrong spot. It did not look good on me anymore. So I thought, what have I got to lose? I love this sweater, but I need it to be longer, and I don't have any yarn left. So, or maybe I had a small, piece of yarn, but not enough to like add an inch or 2. So this is what I did. I cut the sweater right here, and I unraveled it all the way down. And I wound the yarn back up, And then I picked up those stitches because they were live, but under the arm, when I got to it, I was going to just re-knit this in stockinette. I did knit two together, 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 knit two together. I don't even know, 6 times maybe. So that's going to take 6 stitches out of this side and 6 stitches out of the other side, roughly. And so you're losing, let's say, 12 stitches. If you're knitting at 5 stitches the inch, which, yeah, you are, that is 2 inches plus that you're taking out of the width of the sweater, and you're going to knit it narrower. And then I did maybe one more increase just a little ways down, and that gave me more yarn because I removed this many stitches, you know, from the circumference, so then that could add to my length, and the sweater became narrower and longer. And now I wear it all the time. So if you have a sweater that you don't wear, and I have done this now to 2 or 3 sweaters that I knit back in the day, wasn't going to wear them anymore. But another thing that you can do is cut your item off here and take it in with, you know, waist shaping, where you would start decreasing your waist shaping and going back out, do some waist shaping, and then add some stripes at the bottom, or add a color block at the bottom, or get down to this section, pick up with some white, cream, beige, gray yarn on this edge underneath, and add a shirt underneath this sweater so that you get length that's already, you're just adding a tube of knitting picked up from underneath that can just look like a layer is coming out from underneath the sweater. And I did that on, I'll try to dig it out. It's now in the basement, I think. But I picked up and added, like those shirts that you see at the mall now, where they have a long piece of white fabric underneath the sweater. And when you put it on, there's no white shirt underneath it. They just added a little piece down there to add that length. So if you're not wearing it anyway, you don't have anything to lose, because if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I wasn't wearing it, but now I can wear it, and it just worked slick. And no one's looking at that underarm. Those decreases, actually, you can't even tell that those decreases are there. So there's your fix for that one. And then this is, boy, my buttons are hitting that today. Hope that's not irritating anybody. Sorry. This is the Angry Sheep cardigan by Pin-A-Girl. And I think that's called Angry Sheep because the sheep only have eyes. They don't have any smiley mouths. I don't know if you'll be able to see that. No, probably not really. Just trust me. Oh, there on the hat, you can see that they have eyes, but no smiley mouths. And this came out in 2013. It is a fingering weight sweater, 22 stitches to 4 inches, knit on 2.5 needle, 3 millimeter. And 139 people have knit this, and it is supposed to be solid green at the bottom and on the sleeves. I did not run out of black yarn. That is part of the design. I don't even know if you look at it and think that, but I always say that whenever I teach this. And it is not my favorite yarn that I've ever knit with. It is Elspeth Levold Silky Wool, and I don't think it worked great for the color work. It's just kind of sloppy. The problem that you have with running black faces behind white yarn is that you're going to get some peeking through of that color here, and I can see it, and that bothers me a little bit. I love the striping sequence. I love that. You could put any, if you didn't want the sheep in here, you could just make that striped. But I love that I found the green and black buttons. They're really fun. I got them on a card at Joann's. I couldn't believe it. I was there looking for something else. I was knitting or picked out the yarn for this at the time, and I saw the black and green, and I thought those would go perfect down the front of that sweater. This sweater is stitched shut except for the top button, and you do not have to keep it buttoned up if you don't want. But I do think that the button band looks pretty nice and straight. It keeps it, you know, over the time here. So kind of a fun little sweater. I don't think this has pilled quite a lot, and I didn't expect that from a silky wool. And I just been a little disappointed. I have 2 more sweaters quantities of this yarn, and I don't think I'll do color work on them. And I think I'll knit it at a little tighter gauge to try to keep the pilling to a minimum. I do have to shave this quite a bit. The Angora Sheep cardigan is a completely seamless cardigan worked in the round from the top down with 4 increases in short rows made in the yoke for shaping and additional fitting at the waist. I did not do that. A steek is cut down the center front for the button band. There are 5 sizes to choose from, calculated according to the Elizabeth Zimmerman's percentage system. So the sizes are extra small, small, medium, large, and extra large. And those convert into 30, 33, 36, 39, and 43. So does not have a lot of high-end sizes on it. And so I probably made the biggest size. Anyway, so everyone should have a sheep sweater, right? Because you're knitters. You should all have a sheep sweater. But there are my 2 sheep sweaters, and they are some that I wear pretty much all the time. Okay, let's go on to some special notes. That's what I called this section, special notes. I have been watching Knititude. She is the designer out of Canada who is kind of a Lion Brand ambassador. And if you don't watch her, I would highly recommend going and giving her a follow. But she's been doing some lives, and every Thursday she's a guest, and then Saturday she's been doing quite a bit of live streaming. She's a very, very popular knitwear designer. She's got very simple designs, knit in some of the less expensive yarns from Lion Brand, and she does a really beautiful job with that. But one of the things that she said, just kind of offhandedly on one of her last videos, was that she has, you know, followers, and they have a name, and that's a group, and that she likes to use that hashtag. And I thought, well, isn't that a fun idea? I would love to see what everyone's knitting, but they probably don't want to tag me, probably don't want to say @iRockKnits every time you post something on Instagram that you're knitting. But I thought if we had a group name, something that, you know, kind of went along with it, then we could all go out and look at what we're knitting, right? So what do you want to be called? This is so weird, but I'm thinking, I don't even know if I can say this. It's almost embarrassing. How about if we use the hashtag #IRockKnitters? Wouldn't that be kind of fun? Then you could just hashtag it if you're knitting something, anything. Doesn't have to be one of my things, but then that way I can tag my things, you can tag your things, and we can, you know, kind of know what one another's knitting. Like if you're knitting your hi-ho shawl, then you can put #IRockKnitters. What do you think? Is it weird? It's kind of weird. Okay, but I'm kind of weird, so maybe let's go for it. Okay. If somebody comes up with a better idea in the next 2 weeks, something that's a better hashtag, that's more clever, I'm all in. Just give it to me. Let's see if we can't come up with something we could tag ourselves. I have a big shout out. Thank you to Aunt Debbie. Aunt Debbie, you knit my Mr. Tom's Field socks. After I did that, woe is me. Nobody knits that sock pattern. She went out and knit them, and they're lovely. I honestly really appreciate it. There are just some patterns that you put a lot of time and energy into, and people don't knit them, right? And then there are some patterns you don't put as much time and energy into, and everybody knits them. And you never know what they're going to be, right? I didn't really know that my knitting at the library cowl was going to be something that I sold every week. I just didn't know. But then you do a lot of work on a sock pattern like this and you have a couple people go, yeah, it's okay. It wasn't that I thought it was such a great design, but it was one of the first designs that I did that had all over patterning. And it's not color work, it's just pearl bumps. It makes a diamond on the top of your shoe and on the leg of your shoe in pearl bumps. And we used to play, and if you guys have watched for a while, you know that, but we used to play in Mr. Tom's Field, and we used to play kickball, and we played softball. I played softball when I was growing up. My brothers, we'd go over, and everybody we'd set out the bases. My dad would mow the empty fields if it got too big, and we'd mow lines in the field, and I just have this memory of Mr. Tom's Field, and the diamond. So I just thought it was kind of fun, and then she went out and knit them because I said nobody's knitting that pattern. Thank you. Anyway, it made my day. Then I have a new crochet project I'm going to try. Do you guys think I can do it? Do you think you could actually crochet something after all you've done is double crochet on a back and forth? But I saw this the other day on Instagram, and I'm going to make that hat. I have had a little growth, cancerous thing, pre-cancer, cells removed right here. So I really need to not get sun on my face. And I can use sunscreen and all that kind of stuff, but I thought it might be kind of fun to make this Cleo wide brim fedora. It's a Lion brand pattern. It says the pattern's available for free. It's made with bulky yarn called Rewind, Lion brand Rewind. I think that's a tape yarn. And then you can put a stabilizer wire in the outside of it if you want, or you can roll it up. It can be oh, come on. It can be a fold-upable, crushable, travel with it. Gosh, I think I'm going to try it. It's single crochet for the whole thing, but you have to know how to go in the round, which I haven't done before. But I can go in the round in knitting, and so I can go in the round in crochet, right? Yeah, there we go. If anybody wants to join me on that little adventure. I ordered the yarn from Lion Brand this morning. I ordered bright yellow. Of course I did. And the note on the Lion Brand website said that things could be slowed down due to Corona. So I don't know when I'll get it. I'll watch for it, but maybe it will be a little bit. I hope not, because it only takes 2 skeins. You get the pattern and the 2 skeins of yarn. You can get the crochet hook and the stitch markers and the chibi needle too, all as part of the kit. But it was $11 for the things that I got. I'm in on that, so I'm going to try it. Okay. Then I have a request. I'm going to crowdsource a question. A week or 2 ago, a guy knitter, made a spaghetti dish in his Instagram story. He made a tomato sauce, and he did all the steps, and he added a cup of water and a stick of butter, and then he added Colby cheese. Does this ring a bell to anybody? I rewatched it. I wrote down all the steps because there was no recipe. I rewatched all the steps and wrote them down, and I typed it up, and I'll share that recipe with all of you, but I want to give him credit, and I can't remember who it was. I'm almost certain it was a guy knitter who loves this dish called a comfort food, and it's basically tomato sauce, pasta, and cheese. It was kind of a version of red sauce mac and cheese, I think. Anyway, if anybody saw him make that on his it's not there anymore, so I can't even kind of look through and, because those things go away unless he saved it, which he might have saved it as his stories, but if you can't remember who it was, God, come on. Somebody out there saw that, right, on Instagram, and they're going to get back to me and say, hey, Corey. Hey everybody, I'm just jumping in here. I completely forgot to turn my lights on for the podcast today. So I hope it's not dark. I think it was brighter out earlier. I'm editing now. And I forgot to mention what I'm wearing. So I am wearing my Mary Mary sweater that I talked to all about on episode 33. So this was Madeline Tosh, and it is a sweater that is kind of a baby doll shape with a little peplum at the bottom. It's a cardigan. Okay, I have a couple of stories this week. Some of them are very short, and then one of them is probably a little bit longer. But last time I showed the video of the memorial for George Floyd, but while we were driving into the city, I got a text from Matt. You all know Matt, my friend Matt, and I was with Kylie, and I said, my phone went, off, and I said, take a look at that. And she started laughing, and I said, what's going on? She goes, well, when we stop, I'll show you. So Matt sent us a group text of this picture. And this is my car. This is the back of my truck. And my license plate says Knitter, K-N-I-T-R on it. And one of Matt's friends sent him a question and said, did you get a new car? Thinking, because I was on Matt's side of town with my truck, and Matt was laughing going, oh my gosh, no, but I actually know who's driving that car. It was really funny. It really made me laugh that I can go somewhere and people will go, well, I know where you were last week or whatever. I do see people who say, once I knew that was your license plate, now I see you around town all the time. Well, prior to quarantine, I was around town all the time. So I have a bit of a story that also has to do with my car. 2 years ago, the Minnesota DMV revamped their whole system. They got a whole new system. They spent millions of dollars, and when it went live, it didn't work. It was a disaster. It crashed and burned. I think the guy who was in charge of it got fired or he left. I mean, it was a bad deal, because I don't know if anywhere in the country that the DMV is a great place to spend your afternoon, right? Things don't always go smoothly there. There's lots of forms, there's lots of regulations, people get confused. It's all that driver's license stuff and everything. But one of the things that happened is that your personalized license plates weren't in the system, and you could not get them transferred over when you got a new vehicle. Now, this is a new vehicle to us, but it was a used vehicle. But when we got home we flew to Denver and drove it back because it had super low miles on it, and we really liked our previous one. And we had the previous one because we had a horse trailer, because when you have a horse, you got to drag a horse trailer, so you need a big truck. So I was fine with driving this bigger vehicle, and then we all got really used to sitting up high and really liking it. So when my husband found this one, it's a hybrid, so which is really rare. They don't make them anymore. So there's a 2011. So my husband found it, we drove it back here, and then we couldn't get my license plates, and I was really disappointed because I've had them for more than 15 years. I had them in Virginia, because in Virginia you can get a personalized plate for a lot less money than in Minnesota, because highest taxed state in the union, I swear. That's probably not true, but you know what I mean. I don't know the statistics on that. I'm just being flippant. I love Minnesota, but it took a year. And another knitter in my knitting group, well, Mary Brown, you all know Mary Brown. Mary Brown has her initials, and she couldn't get hers either. And she and I were really frustrated because we'd try and then they'd say, nope, it's not time yet. And a year later, we still don't have the personalized plates that we've paid for to put on our car. So we finally get them. I think a year ago, I went and I sat at the DMV for a couple of hours. I went once with Mary too when I had my knee surgery, because she drove me. Memories. And we finally got them. So this year, my little tabs that you put in the corner of your plates expired. My husband goes in to update it online, and I'm not there. The car's not there. The license plate's not there. And he's like, this is part of that glitch. We didn't get a renew it form. We didn't get it. It's going to expire. You need to do this. And he did all of our other cars online, so he knows how to do it. But he said, you're going to have to go to the DMV. Well, right now there is no DMV. There's a line, and I've seen the line out the parking lot and down the street in the town over from me. And I thought, okay, I'm going to take my knitting and I'm going to go sit in the line, and I'm just going to do it, right? I got to get tabs for my truck. So as you get in the line, I'm 15 or 17 cars back in the line when I get in the line that Wednesday, 2 weeks ago. And I wait and I wait, and I called Amber at one point, and I was knitting, and then you finally get into the parking lot, and there's a person there, and they have a tent set up with a clipboard, and they come over, they ask you what you need, what you're going to be doing, they check your check, they stamp it, they tell you, they check all your stuff, so that you're good to go to get into the parking lot. And then it becomes 2 lanes that goes into one again. It's really, but everybody's taking their time, and you've been there for 2.5, 3 hours. You're waiting in your car. It's hot out. Turn your car off, turn your car on. And I get up to the little window, and I say to the lady, I really hope that I can do this because it's not in the system. And she says, well, what do you need to do? And I said, well, I have personalized plates, but we did not get a, upgrade, You guys know where this is going, right? I can't do it because my husband's name is on the vehicle, and he didn't sign the form that she gave me. But she says to me, she doesn't tell me that at first. So she sends out the form, I sign it, my check. I have to give her my credit card and my driver's license. And then she says, I'm going to hand this off back here, and we're going to go have drinks, and then we'll be back in an hour. And I was like, because you don't really usually think that the DMV people are going to try to be funny with you. But of course, she knows that everybody that's in line is mad. So she's trying to be lighthearted, like she's got my credit card and my driver's license. And I said, I kind of chuckled. And then she said, I'm going to hand it off because I can't do it at this computer. And then they're going to call you, and you're going to go around to the side of the building, and there's a blue box, and you're going to go up into the blue box, and you're going to get it, and then everything. And my head just kind of spun around 3 times, and I was like, oh, wait a second, I'm going to leave all my stuff with you? And then do I go home? Are you going to call me, and then I come back and get it out of the, what? I'm sorry. She says, I say this 100 times a day, so maybe I went too fast. And I was like, yes, you did. So I ended up pulling out on the side street, and they have a cart sitting out there with a blue metal box on top of it. And when your stuff is ready, they call you, and the lady comes out the side door and puts it in the box, shuts the thing, and then you go up and get it from the blue box so you don't touch each other. So I'm sitting out there, I don't even know, half an hour, and the lady calls, and she says, are you still in the area? Did you leave? I said, no, they told me I had to sit here. And she said, well, some people leave and come back. And I was like, oh, okay. And she says, I can't, this doesn't match. And I said, what? It doesn't match. Like my husband, I could have signed his name if I'd have known. I know illegal, but come on, he's my husband. But I didn't. And so I said, so do I get a pass? Can I come back and be in the front of the line? Do I get to call you? Do I get to put it in the blue box and you'll come out and get it? And she's like, no, I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. I said, you mean to tell me that I just sat in this car for 3+ hours and I have to go home and get a signature, and you're closing because they close at 4:30, and so I don't have time to go home 7 miles and come back and get back in the line? I said, so I have to sit here again? And she's like, I'm really sorry. And they, and they wonder why we're frustrated by the system. The guy at the parking lot gate could have told me that I needed, the signatures needed to match. The lady at the booth could have told me that I needed those signatures to match. I should have known probably that they needed to match, but it was such a mess that I didn't even know if it was in the system. And it's my truck, so we've had to talk about that, why it's not my name. But so 2 days later, Friday, I have to go back, and I'm nervous, of course, right? Because I'm sitting. The second day back, I'm 11th in line, And I get up to the front, I still have the same check blank that they've already looked at. I have all the paperwork. And the guy says, okay, you should be good to go. And I said, I just need to double check because literally I've been in the line now for 45 minutes. But before I get into the parking lot line, is there any way that you can tell me if I have everything I need? Because I just did this the other day. And he said, no, you should be good to go. So I get up to the thing and I hand it to the lady and she goes, I remember you. I was like, yeah, I'm the one who had sat. And she said, I'm really sorry you had to sit here. I mean, the system is broken when it doesn't work that way. And then you add the pandemic on top of it. And she could find me in the system, but it wasn't in the system on our end. And she agreed. She said, I don't know what has happened with this or why, but I'm going to update it. And I'm hoping that, a year from now or whatever, you'll get your thing. So then she says, now you understand the blue box. I said, yes, I'll go. So then, and I'm knitting the whole time. Thank God for my knitting, right? So I'm knitting the whole time. I went and sat out on the street and waited. And then the blue box lady called me and she goes, I have your tabs for you. And I was like, excellent. And then she brought it out to the blue box and then I went walking back up there. But a funny thing happened while I was sitting on the side street. And I don't know if I should, this isn't a tattletale story, but while I'm sitting there, a young man, 20s, pulls up on a red motorcycle, one of those fancy ones, and he unwinds a cord and plugs it into his motorcycle and then goes up to the back of the DMV and plugs his motorcycle cord into a socket prong electrical outlet on the back of the DMV. And then he's sitting in the grass looking at his phone. And I'm like, does he work for the DMV? Do they care that he's plugging his car in? This is not one of those service stations for electric vehicles. This is literally a plug outside the back door of a building. And I think if you have an electric motorcycle, do you just go behind buildings all the time so that when you're driving around town, you know where you can plug in? And I'm sitting in the car and I'm thinking, you're becoming that little old lady, the kind of the grouchy one who's like, look at that young man. But I thought it was so strange. And the woman came out and put my thing in the blue box, which is right next to the cord on the ground. She didn't say anything. I don't even know if she looked, but like if it would have been a problem, I would have thought he wouldn't have, just been sitting there on the curb. There's this big patch of grass up to the back door. And I walked right by him and I'm looking and there's this little like power pack thing that's unzipped. It's in a little canvas carrier. I didn't even know there was a thing that you could plug in a motorcycle, but so I learned something new that day too. Isn't that crazy? Do you just plug into the back of a building, steal their electricity a little bit? I don't know. I get like, how else do you get home? If you were running you're going through this town and it's like, hey, I know where there's an outlet and I'm not going to make it home. I don't know if you have to, how much power you need to run a motorcycle. Anyway, so there you go. Let's finish up today. A little plug to do here. If you have not seen this, it says Be Kind. This is Amber's new pin. Lovely, sparkle and pink, which is totally her. But Amber is selling these on Etsy, and some of the proceeds from the pins are going to Cheryl, who is Choco Cat Moms group charity in Virginia that we learned about when we went to the Virginia Beach Yarn Getaway a couple of years ago. And so they have a large organization that does scholarships, mostly for people of color in that area, high school seniors who write an essay, and then it's based on need. They give money away in the form of scholarships, and so I just wanted to plug this pin. Amber has, as of today, about 250 pins left, and then when they're gone, they're gone. She won't have any more made. So if you would like to go, it's a toggle back, pin. If you'd like to go out to her Etsy shop and get yourself a pin. I also have a giveaway to do this week. And when I was going through all my fingering weight scraps, I found this bag of lovely yarn. I'll hold it up here. There you go. And this is from Desert Vista Dye Works, and it is a Christmas packet of yarns. It's Drummers Drumming and Maids of Merming and Lords of Leaping. But they all have sparkle in them. And none of the things that I'm making so far have any sparkle in them. And so I was just thinking, instead of breaking this up and using it in one little section of something, someone who really likes sparkle and would like to make like a cowl or a hat or socks out of this might really enjoy it more than I would enjoy using it. So I'm going to give this away this week. Go over to the Ravelry group and I'll have it listed at the top of the thread over there, and you can just put an answer into the question that I put. I have the original sheet here, and it's 12 sparkle mini skeins. They're 40 yards a piece, so it's a total of 480 yards. So it's more than a single sock yarn skein, and it is 12 days of Christmas. Super fun, very cute, but I'm not going to use it in one of my blankets if the whole blanket's not sparkle. And I have very little sparkle yarn. I have some. I've made a couple pairs of socks of sparkle, but I don't have a lot of scraps, so I thought that would just be something that would be great to give away. Okay, let's do the hellos this week, shall we? Hello to Anida Opioke, Cindy Bukite, who is the one who says that she uses her microwave bowl to keep her hands warm when she's eating ice cream. She sets her ice cream dish in there, which I thought so smart. Debbie McKenzie, Stitch and Amy, Pat Howes, 619-253, Kathy Evans, Crafty Mystic, Eleanor Lowry, The Yarn Curator, Linda Uhl, Rusty Knits, Kat Gore, Julie Smith, Edina Cole, Eileen Tomorrow, Tomero, I'm gonna get it, Eileen, Patty Skaggs, Gina Thompson, Chris Osborne, Debbie Stuckey, Jan Smith, Michelle of Knit Takes Two, Heather Wilson, Patricia Lowe, June Clifford, Kelly Mathern, Janet Robertson, Donna Fink, Agnes Zelgert, Peggy Bork, the N. Aisha, Brandy Stoker, Janet Pingree, yep, Maggie Two Sticks, Nancy Randa, Carrie Walden, Mystery Glow, MC Radner or M. Cradner. I don't know how to say that, and you need to help me with that because I'm going to struggle with that because I don't know if it's initials and then a last name. Tracy Kuzniak, Tenzi Marcos Bodker, HBWT40, who got back to me this week and said that HBWT stands for Have Broom Will Travel. And someone gave her that moniker at her work back in the day, and she's used it ever since, and I love it. Susie Cusey, Karen Mezzacapo, Danielle Brown, Barb Christensen, Donna Coffey, Stacy B, Olivia Mankey, Caddy Jacks Knits, Mary B, Sandra Boyle, Kim Ray, Jessie's Mom 12, Angela Jenkins, Melinda Zaccardi Rousseau, Faking Sanity, Linda Uhl, Rachel Weisenstein, Gail S, Glenda Bathgate, Eventual Knits Leah, Cindy Ehlers, Anna Bling, Karen Essenbach, Mary Case, Cheryl Lacemaker, Bonnie Vandemark, Kat Montgomery, Nikki Leffler, Emma Butcher, Penny Laughlin, Bonnie Wright, and Regina Orvid, and Arlene in Massachusetts, who wrote me the nicest note on Ravelry this week. It made my day today. She just wrote me a really nice note about my fork story and about what's going on with her, and I wish you all the luck and the best of luck, and I'm going to say a prayer for you. So I have a new sign and I want to share it with you. There you go. Keep your fork. I'm going to be adding it to the back of my thing here. This is made by the same lady who made this one. This one's painted. I have another one in the mudroom in our house that says, "We are show up kind of people," My daughter Kylie heard that in her entire life growing up. I said, if someone calls and they need you, you are a show up kind of person. That is that's like family motto, number one. If there's a need, you have a friend, family member, someone that needs you in the moment, you show up. She said, I know, Mom, I know. All your relatives always came to everything. That's kind of... So, but I have one painted in my bedroom that says, we are show up kind of people. And then I had this one made. And when I got in contact with the lady, she's not on Etsy anymore. She is got her own website. And when I reached out to her, I said, I want one just like that because I want to stick it in my, shelves. Maybe it could be a little bit shorter so that it could go on the bottom shelf of this. And she said, well, I have new techniques. So these are actually raised letters that are cut out and then painted. Can you all see that, how that is like that? And it has a frame. And I said, oh, I just want the plain one. I don't need the fancy one. And she said, because you reached out to me and you were asking me for a custom order, you've had a custom order before, I'd like to just throw that in for free. And because I said, I had told her previously that it was for a podcast and that I would have it on the podcast and I would say where it was from. So she remembered that and said, I'm sure if it's going to be on the back of your podcast, I'll give you the upgraded, the nicer one. So this is by Wander Love Press, Wander, W-A-N-D-E-R. And I measured the height of the lower shelf, and an 8x10 frame would fit in that bottom shelf perfectly. This one's 9x11, I think. And the picture came, and it fits in the shelf this way. Just totally my fault, because I didn't say that the 8x10 needed to be. So now I have to figure out, it's not big enough to put on the second shelf. So I think I'm gonna hang a little hook in there and get it jerry rigged up. But it is a really nice, if you have to give a gift to someone and they have a motto, she does a lot of marriage ones with the person's last name and the year, the year that they were married. So she'll paint, your kids' names or whatever, but I couldn't believe that when it came in the mail and then I went to stick it in there. I was like, oh, Corey, 10x8, not 8x10. And then she did it for free, the upgrade. So that was really nice of her. The last thing I want to ask for is if you are interested in being a test knitter for me, I am writing a ebook. And the ebook is called Knit Words. And the Knit Words ebook is going to include all the items that have knitting terms on them that will go along with the sweater and the skirt that I made for Amber and I when we went to Rhinebeck. So there are 8 patterns, and they're all the words, and I'm short some test knitters. I could use a few more test knitters on the bigger items because, of course, the test knitters, the smaller things are the first things to go because they're quicker and easier. So the cowl, the hat, the tote bag, the lanyard, those things all went quite quickly. But I still need some test knitters for the skirt, the poncho, and the sweater for sure. So if you are interested at all, and you don't even have to completely finish it by a certain deadline, I just need another set of eyes on those projects. Will you let me know? Will you reach out to me at Corey@iRockKnits.com and get yourself signed up? You will get the ebook for free or another pattern of mine of your choice along with the pattern that you're testing, and you get to keep the project. So you can use, they're either sport weight or worsted weight projects. The knitting of the color work is very easy because with letters, everything stacks on itself. So you don't have to read the chart every line because there are, wavy things going on. You can just stack, that the letter T stacks on itself. So when you come around to it, it's probably one of the easier ways to do color work or learn color work. I just need a few more people, and I kind of trust you guys to have my back a little bit. I didn't want to put out a big call on Instagram because some of the stuff is a little proprietary right now. No one's seen a lot of it, and you don't want someone to take your idea before your book gets published. Anyway, you wouldn't think that happens, but there have been some issues in the knitting industry. So if you're at all interested, will you reach out and let me know? The poncho and the skirt have the words all the way down, and the sweater has it just on the yoke, 3 words on the yoke. So the book will come out the end of August. It's my goal. Amber's doing my photography. Jean is doing my tech editing. I've had testers are going strong in a number of the categories. I have several that are already completely done and ready to go. I think I've got some good ideas, some good concepts for putting in the book too. So hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll have a few of you that are interested in helping me out with that. So I really, really do appreciate all of you that come over and spend your time with me and let me babble on, but also engage in a little bit of community with me and enjoy kind of talking knitting, because right now when we're all on lockdown, that's about all we've got to kind of do is connect via the internet. So look at this. Someone sent this the other day. Long yellow things, 78 cents a pound. Isn't that hilarious? No green bananas. Waddle on. Keep it colorful and keep your fork. Love you all. Bye.